Oof, man, I was doing so good too. What's going on, you guys? My name is Tochi. Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new, and my name is Tochi. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I got it on February 11th of last month, and today is March 13th. And it's been a month and so a couple of days, so I wanted to give you guys my experience with the actual Osmo Pocket 3 to give you guys a little bit of background in terms of why I got the Osmo Pocket 3. I work as a doctor right now, and one of the main things that I was doing on one of my previous YouTube channels on Med, if you guys are not subscribed, you can go in the description box down below. But I wanted to have a vlogging channel or a YouTube channel where I can have something quick, easy, and compact to be able to pump out some videos. One of the main things that I was using, I think I actually have it here. Let me see if I can actually find it. It's in my room. Let me grab it real quick. But one of the main things that I wanted was a camera that was compact and was able to help me record videos. I started off first with this Canon T5i right here. It's right here. So this is the first camera that I was using to actually record videos, which I was using back in 2000, I think 2012, 13, around that time. And what I did was that I started to get a little bit more into vlogging. So I wanted something a little bit more smaller and not so bulky. And, you know, this is for pictures mainly and not really meant for video recording. So I was like, let me get something that's actually dedicated to be video recording. So what I ended up getting next, which if I can find it, was the Canon G7X Mark I, which was the very first model of that actual camera. And it was a pretty popular camera back in the day. And I think they're on the Mark III right now, but that was the camera that I got. Here it is. That was the camera that I got back then. And at that time, my mind was blown. I was like, okay, now I have an even smaller camera. It's more compact. I don't have to carry around that big DSLR camera to record videos. So I had this camera right here to actually start recording videos. And I had that like flip up camera, and I was like, okay, now I can just record boom, 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 and it'll be much easier. But over time, and as I started to get back more into YouTube in these last couple of months, I have realized that even those two cameras, even this camera, this Canon G7X, was very inconvenient. And I also wanted to have a way where I can, like with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, I can have a wireless camera attached. One of the things with this camera is that this model did not have a port to actually put a actual Bluetooth or lavalier mic in. So I wasn't able to put one in here, and I can do that with the actual DSLR, but it just made it even more bulkier in terms of the actual overall initial bulk that I had. So I didn't want to have like this huge camera, and it also just was very inconvenient walking around with these two big cameras. So the main reason why I wanted to get this DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is that I wanted something small, compact, but still powerful, and was able to produce the audio that I wanted for my YouTube videos. That is actually what went into me actually buying this camera. And then I had a lot of built up chase points on my card. So I was able to get this camera on an actual discount. The way that I kind of orient in my actual hand is that it fits like pretty much right there, and it's no bigger. So you can imagine that from me going from that huge DSLR camera to this Canon G7X to that, it was so much more smaller. And being able to even have this right here, this DJI Osmo Pocket 3, was very helpful because it made everything so seamless, very small, compact, efficient, which goes into my first reason why I like this Osmo Pocket 3 so much, which is that it's just super compact and convenient. And the convenient factor is something that's really, really important to me, because if I have all these mental hurdles of like, okay, I got to lug out this huge camera to actually record, it's just really annoying. It's very, not embarrassing, but having that attention on me, like, why does this person have this huge camera just sitting there, right there, talking to himself? Or even with that bigger one, it's even more attention drawing. So I didn't want to have those two appliances be super attention drawing. So this DJI Osmo Pocket 3, with it being like pretty much the size of my hand, it's so convenient going around just recording. And that's one of the main impediments, especially for those of you guys that are thinking about getting this actual camera. If you have a very big camera or something that's not compact, efficient, and very like useful to use, then it's just going to make it that much more harder on you to want to actually record videos. And that's something that was a big mental hurdle for me, is that, okay, I want to record a video, I want to go outside and vlog, but I don't want to be walking around with a huge camera and a huge tripod and be drawing a bunch of attention. I just want to be within my own world and be able to not draw so much attention. So that was one of the main biggest positives that I'll say with the actual Osmo Pocket 3 that was very beneficial for me. Of course, if you put like the battery pack and like the actual stand, which I have right here, it does make it pretty much double the length, which, you know, it's not too much of a huge issue for me. If I'm walking around or, you know, going about my day for my blog, I'm not really using this stand and this actual extra battery mount. So this is like the extra battery case right here. And then this is like the actual stand that I got from DJI. I'm not really using this unless I'm sitting down somewhere and I want it to be propped up, because you can prop up the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, but it's not as stable as if you were using this actual mount right here. Oof, man, I need some water. Now, the second reason why I like the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is just the high amount of quality that I can get from this very small device. If you guys are not aware, this actual device can record up to 4K 120 frames per second. I will say that even though it does go up to that high of a quality, I'm mostly recording in 1080p with 30, maybe sometimes a 60 FPS. You know, I'm not going to put 60 FPS because I mostly record in 30. Having that ability to go up that high has been very beneficial for me. Sometimes when I'm looking at the actual screen, because if I actually measure it, the screen is very small. So oftentimes it was kind of daunting for me when I first started using it. I'm like, oh, is this quality actually going to come out looking good when I actually put it on my computer and project it up to the screen? And I will say that it pretty much blew away my actual expectation. I was going in there with a negative mindset and I came out even better because it was actually much, much more crisp than like normal 1080p. And that was very important for me, is like, am I getting actual good quality? And another good actual aspect of this camera is that it's pretty good in low light settings. And that's something that I was really nervous about, because specifically with the Canon G7X that I have right here, is that it was not very good recording in low light settings. And that was very important for me, is that how versatile is this actual device amongst different settings, and low light settings and very high bright settings. How is it actually going to hold up? And I will say that it has many different features. It has like a video capturing feature. You're able to take pictures with it. You're able to do like a time-lapse video. You're able to do slow motion, and you're able to actually live stream it through it. And I think the quality is actually better than this actual DSLR camera and then this actual Canon G7X. Granted, this is the very first model of the Mark I, but still, it's still pretty good for its actual size. One of the negatives actually ties into that actual positive, but I'll talk about that later. And then the last aspect of this camera that I'll say is a very good positive is that the active tracking feature. Let me go ahead and just activate it right now. So if you actually double tap on your face on the screen of the Osmo Pocket 3, it actually has active tracking features. So if I go over here, it's gonna follow me. If I go over here, it's gonna follow me. And you can actually adjust how fast you want the camera moving for me. And what right now, I think it's set to like medium to like fast. So if I like try to, you know, go all over the place, it's gonna follow me pretty quickly. Ooh, almost slipped and fell right there. This active tracking feature is a very, very beneficial feature to have. And I think it's one of the biggest highlights of the actual Osmo Pocket 3. And the settings that I've actually used this actual feature the most has been in the gym, has been sometimes at work, but mostly in the gym, where I am putting it up somewhere and it's actually following me. And it's almost like you have a cameraman of itself, and you really don't need a second person to actually record you with this actual feature. Sometimes it feels like someone is actually, you know, recording for you. So when you can be walking around naturally, and for me, I like moving around when I speak to kind of help, with nerves when speaking to the camera. And this is something that kind of simulates that motion of like, okay, like, although like no one is really behind the camera right now, it feels like someone's like following along for me. And it's making me feel like less nervous to actually talk in front of the camera. So this active tracking feature, let me go ahead and turn it back off again, is one of the best features for the Osmo Pocket 3. And I hope they continue that with the Osmo Pocket 4, and maybe they can add some more features for the Osmo Pocket 4 as well. Those are the 3 things that I'll say are major positive of the Osmo Pocket 3 1 month in. I'm sure there's many other things that I haven't even like tapped into that will probably even elevate my feelings on the Osmo Pocket 3. But for now, those are the main things that I've noticed in my 1 month experience. Now, let's talk about the negatives. So the negatives are really nitpicky. I will say that to kind of preface all these negatives, that although there are some very small things about the Osmo that do annoy me, they're not very groundbreaking or very negative to the point where I'd be like, oh, I got to return this camera. I feel like I can't use it. And I feel that overall, they're just very like personally nitpicky. So I'll just say that to preface all of it. First thing that I'll say is the main negative with this actual camera has to do with the actual audio and the microphones. Now, if you guys don't actually put the extension mount on the actual Osmo, the location of the internal microphones are in places that are easily covered up with your hand. So I remember when I was actually recording for one of my videos, I held the camera as naturally as I could. And when I was actually listening to it back, it sounded muffled. It sounded like it was like you're trying to speak through, like it was kind of like that. And it was very annoying. And I was like, why does it sound like that? And then I looked into it, and on a couple of videos that I watched, and then I looked at the actual location of the actual Osmo, I saw that I was actually covering it up with my actual hands. I think that's something that I would like to see in the Osmo Pocket 3 is a different placement of the actual microphones to kind of help avoid that potential limiting factor. That way you don't have audio like that. Now, I will say, and this kind of goes into my nitpicky comment earlier, if you are using the extender that comes with the actual Osmo, or if you're using, where did it go? This right here, you can pretty much avoid it and hold it from the very bottom, from either right here or even with the actual extra battery pack. And you can avoid having that be a problem for when you're recording audio for your videos. So that's what I would say that you can do to actually avoid that factor of the Osmo Pocket 3 to help you get the best audio. So very nitpicky, but it was just one thing that I noticed when I first started using it before I got these 2 accessories and before I got the DJI mic too. The second aspect of the Osmo Pocket 3 that I'll say is a little bit of a negative is the baseline exposure of the actual image when you're recording video. Now, one thing that I noticed specifically when I was in the gym or when I was outside is that I really noticed that the screen showed the actual footage that was being captured as being very, very bright and overexposed. And at first I was like, oh, maybe I just have it like set very like off where the exposure is a little bit higher than expected. And I looked and the exposure was at 0, or like the EV count was at 0. So I did a little bit of research, and then I listened to a couple of vlogs of people that also use the Osmo Pocket 3. And they were also saying that out of the box, fresh out of the box, if you're not changing any of these settings manually, then the actual camera and the picture quality will be baseline overexposed. Now, that is something that I was able to kind of change and ameliorate when I actually going into the manual settings and changing down the EV to like -0.3 or -0.7 settings, depending on the situation. But that's what I would say is a little bit of a negative when I was actually using the Osmo Pocket, is just that everything seems so bright. I'm sure that can be changed in like the post-production, but I think raw, that was something that kind of bothered me when I first got it, but didn't bother me enough to not want to use the Osmo Pocket anymore. And then lastly, the last negative that I'll say for the Osmo Pocket 3 is the battery life. Now, I'll say out of all 3 of the negatives, this probably bothers me the most. And I'll say that there were a couple of days in these last like week or 2 that I was using the Osmo like heavy, like almost entirely the whole day. And I would say that I probably wouldn't even get to like noon or 12. And I noticed that the battery was already on like 10, 15, 20%. And if I didn't actually have my extra battery pack that I had to buy maybe like a week later, then the Osmo would have been dead. You know what I mean? And like that would have been annoying for all the other extra footage that I wanted to get. And I will say, although the Osmo Pocket 3 charges very quickly, it does, I don't want to put it completely on that, but it does die like a little bit faster than I was expecting it to when I actually got this device. Thankfully, I do have this extra battery pack and that's actually solar powered, so I can charge it pretty quickly if I'm on the road. But I'll just say that that was something that kind of bothered me. Granted, if you have this actual extra battery pack, which I would recommend for you guys to get, then that will extend your battery life a good amount for throughout the whole day. So I'll say that with the actual Osmo, with this extra battery pack, and if I started recording around like 8, 9, 10 a.m., then by 5 to 6, I'll say that you probably won't have any more battery at that point. At least that's what my experience was. Those are the positive and those are the negatives. Let me know, for those of you guys that are Osmo Pocket 3 users, which one resonated for you the most. And then also let me know what your positives and negatives are of this actual device. This is also advice for those of you guys that are thinking about the Osmo Pocket 3. My overall review of the actual product, if I were to go back in time and tell myself to actually take it, or actually if I were to go back in time to tell myself to actually buy it or not, I would definitely tell myself to buy this device. It was definitely worth it, and it was definitely a huge factor as to why I can be a little bit more consistent on YouTube, guys. But for now, I will see you guys later. Peace. Have a nice day.